Hello, good afternoon. My name is Susana Maria Mendez Llanes, and this is the learning outcome number 3. What is globalization? Globalization is the process of interaction among people, companies, and governments of different nations, a process driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. The process has effects on environment, on culture, on political systems, on economic development and prosperity, and on human physical well-being in societies around the world. Globalization, it's when a lot of people around the world give their markets to other people, and not only their markets, their companies and the government talks to each other to make an agreement. Trade. Trade is basic economic concept involving the buying and selling of goods and services with compensation paid by a buying to a seller, or exchange of goods services between parties. It, it is more common by trading money, but it's also about products. The trade it's inside the globalization. It's about selling goods and services. That is, if I have a market that I want to be expressed around the world, I would trade it. And between governments, they trade their money. That it's by giving exchange of goods. The digital revolution. The digital revolution is a change from mechanical and analog electric technology to digital electronics, which began anywhere from the late 1950s to the late 70s, with the adoption and proliferation of digital computers and digital recording keepings that continues to the present day. Implicitly, the term has also referred by sweeping changes brought about the digital computing and communication technology during and after the half of the 20th century. This revolution of the digital era, it's around the world, it's worldwide. Everybody has something digital, a computer, a tablet, a smartphone. Digital equipment has been necessary for our century. Terrorism. Terrorism, in the broadest sense, the use of intentionally indiscriminate violence as a means of creating terror or fear to achieve a political, religious, or ideological aim. That is, that when somebody else wants something about another person, when it's involving something political, religious, ideology, etc., they think that it's with violence and creating fear, so they will follow them and want to win that way. In terms, terrorists or terrorism originates from French Revolution, late 18th century, but gained mainstream popularity during the U.S. presidency of Ronald Reagan. After the 83 Beirut barracks bombings and after the attacks of New York City and Washington, D.C. on September 1 in 2001, and the Valley on October 2002. The positive and negative influences of globalization. More efficient markets. Efficient markets should be what every economy strives for. Essentially, the sign of an efficient market is where there's an equilibrium between the buyers and the willing to pay for a good or service that sellers are willing to sell for a good service. This means that the people that owns a company, a market, can spread it worldwide and they will be much more successful. Increased competition. Anytime that you have multiple producers competing for a good economy, That is a good sign from consumers, as the quality of goods and services often goes up as a result. This means that if I own a company, I will try to make it better because a lot of people are competing with my company. More wealth equality throughout the world. Although many Americans contend that their standard of living has gone down because of globalization, the flip side to this is that hundreds of thousands of people around the world now have jobs and started their own businesses can provide comfort to their families. This means that the families that didn't have a job, that were struggling with money and were fighting the life, they were fighting for their economic life, now have jobs because a lot of people are doing their companies on different parts of the world, and in there they can have their jobs. These are the negative influences of globalization. Globalization transfers jobs from developed countries to less developed countries. Globalization levels the playing field is a way that makes hard for developing countries to compete. A country with lower cost structure is able to compete typical OECD country. This means that the globalization jobs that developed countries to the less developed countries. This means that a country that is not well developed, it cannot go higher because people will not invest in their country. They will go to the more developed country so that their company will succeed. Globalization transfers investments spending from developed countries to the less developed countries. An investor has a chance to choose between a country and a competitive advantage. Has a country competitive disadvantage, the investor will choose the advantage that is more or less the same of the first one. With the dollar as the world reserve currency, globalization leads to huge U.S. balance and trade deficits and other imbalances. This means that the globalization makes the U.S. in a huge advantage because the dollar is the one that leads the entire world because it's the most balanced currency. Globalization. The WTO, the World Trade Organization, is the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. It is a heart that the WTO agreements negotiated and signed by the bulk of the world's trading nations and ratified in their parliaments. The goal of the WTO is to help producers of goods and services, exporters and importers conduct their business. This was founded by the Uruguay round of GATT on 1986 to 1993. They founded the World Trade Organizations. The objectives of the World Trade Organization is to improve the standard of living in people in member of the countries. That is to make people in a better standard of living, to ensure full employment of broad increase in effective demand, to make more jobs so that people can work and go ahead with their lives, to enlarge production and trade of goods so that people can have what the companies have to offer, to increase the trade of services. A lot of countries where they have the World Trade Organizations are Algeria, Andorra, Bahamas, Belarus, and a lot of more, which you can see in the screen. The advantages and disadvantages of the digital revolution. The digital revolution links individuals and groups together, which is, if my sister lives far away, which she does, I can call her through a webcam and I can see my nephews and I can see what she is doing and I can feel a little closer to her even though she is far away. Ideas can be shared and innovation can be accelerated. What I have to offer can be accelerated much more if I can post it on something that everybody sees, that it's on the internet. We now have a world of online opportunity, that it's more or less the same, that you can have the opportunity, and the other one is that you can do it faster. The digital revolution forces competitiveness on a global scale. If I have an idea and another person has an idea, we can have competition between both of us and do it better and have a better product to offer. Now the disadvantages. This revolution breaks down many relationships and our sense of community. A lot of relationships has been broken because of the digital smartphone, iPad, computer, everything. Having information presented on screen allows viewers to accept the message that is presented and move on without time for reflection. A lot of people can see the information without thinking it through and believing it. The information age allows evil to spawn and grow on an alarming rate. Not everybody is nice, and a lot of people can harm you, and it's more fast to do it on a computer. How do you think technology benefits or affects terrorism? I believe it affects terrorism because people can see where you are. They can locate you even faster than what they would if there were anything about technology. People can see where you are or what you're doing and locate your smartphone or locate your computer and try to harm you from where you are because of what you own, that is your phone or your tablet or your computer. Thank you very much. This was my learning outcome 3. I am Susana Mendez and have a really, really, really good night.